The Witch of Dagger Creek. In the dense pine woods near a forgotten American town called Dagger Creek, a sinister legend lingered like the scent of death, something so terrifying that no one dared mention it aloud after dark. 4 best friends, Emily, Sarah, Rachel, and Olivia, decided to spend their summer vacation in a secluded log cabin deep within those very woods, unaware of the ancient evil that waited for them. They laughed, they shared stories, they lit bonfires, but as the sun disappeared behind the dark forest, so did the feeling of safety. On the first night, a bone-chilling scream echoed from the trees. Emily disappeared. The others searched everywhere, only to find deep scratch marks on the ground leading toward the forest, marks that looked like she had been dragged. All that remained was her broken phone and a trail of blood-soaked dirt. Olivia swore she saw something, pale, naked, with long black hair covering a face twisted in agony and rage. The next night, it came again. Sarah, too afraid to sleep, sat near the fire with a knife in her hand. But when the clock hit 2:47 a.m., the temperature dropped suddenly. Doors slammed shut. The power went out. Then came the thumping on the roof. Something heavy, something crawling. Within seconds, Sarah was pulled violently through the window. Her screams echoed through the forest like a dying animal. By morning, only scraps of her clothes were found dangling from a pine tree, 30 feet above the ground. Rachel wanted to leave, but Olivia convinced her to stay, saying they'd fight whatever it was. Big mistake. Night 3, the witch returned. Rachel didn't even have a chance to run. The witch dragged her by the neck across the wooden floor, her nails leaving a trail of blood behind. Olivia watched helplessly from the closet, hand over her mouth, shaking in pure terror. Rachel begged, cried, and screamed, but the witch tore her apart like a wild animal, and then vanished into the darkness. Now, only Olivia remained. But Olivia was different. She wasn't just scared. She was furious. Before sunset, she carved protective sigils all over the cabin's doors. She wore a silver cross and rubbed salt along the windows. She even found an old hunting rifle left behind by the previous owner. She knew the witch would come at 2:47 a.m. So she waited, heart pounding, eyes open. The witch came. Her eyes were hollow sockets. Her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, dripping blood. Her limbs cracked as she walked. She whispered Olivia's name in an inhuman voice. But Olivia didn't run. She stood her ground. "Come and get me, bitch." The witch lunged. Olivia fired the rifle straight into her face. Once, twice, nothing. The witch laughed. But when Olivia struck her with the silver dagger, straight into the chest, the witch let out a shriek so loud it shattered the windows. Flames burst from her mouth as her body contorted, burning from the inside out. She thrashed, wailed, then crumbled into ash right there on the cabin floor. The nightmare was over. Olivia walked out of the forest at sunrise, barefoot and bloodied, but alive. The sheriff never found the other girls. No trace. Just blood, claw marks, and Olivia's trembling words. There was a witch, and she was real. To this day, no one stays overnight in Dagger Creek, because every year, on the same 3 nights, in August, someone still hears the dragging sounds and the scream of a girl being pulled into the dark. Crystal Pines Lake was known for its serenity. Tall evergreens lined the glassy water, and the air smelled of pine and wildflowers. It was the kind of place where people went to escape their nightmares, not step into one. 4 best friends, Haley, Madison, Brooke, and Chloe, rented a luxurious wooden cabin right at the lake's edge for a long weekend getaway. The photos online showed misty sunrises over still water, a private dock, and cozy fireplaces. It looked like paradise, but no one told them about the Whisper Witch, an old legend buried beneath the lake's silence. The first night, everything felt magical. The girls laughed under string lights, roasted marshmallows, and played music into the night. But around 2:30 a.m., the air turned cold. The water grew eerily still. Haley went outside to get her phone from the dock. She never came back. At first, they thought it was a joke. But when Madison went searching, all she found was Haley's slipper, covered in black slime, and deep drag marks etched into the wooden planks, leading into the water. The second night, the tension was thick. The forest around them didn't feel peaceful anymore. It felt like it was watching. Madison stayed inside, locking every door and window. But it didn't matter. At 2:47 a.m., the lights flickered and blew out. A sound like nails scratching wood came from the ceiling. Then she screamed, a horrifying, choking scream. Brooke and Chloe found her in the morning. Her body was bent in unnatural angles, her mouth open wide as if she died screaming. Her eyes were gone. Just gone. Brooke wanted to leave immediately. Chloe insisted they stick together and fight. But that night, Brooke disappeared from the locked bathroom. There was blood in the tub. Long strands of black hair were wrapped around the faucet. On the mirror, written in blood, "One more to go." Now only Chloe remained. She wasn't just scared, she was done running. She read every line of the local legends. The Whisper Witch had drowned in that lake 100 years ago, wrongly accused of witchcraft. Her soul never left. She hated women, especially those who laughed, those who felt safe. So, Chloe prepared. She filled the cabin with salt, hung mirrors at every door, lit candles with herbs. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the witch came, dripping, pale, hair covering her face, crawling from the lake. Like a nightmare, her body cracked and snapped with every movement. Her voice was the sound of 10 women whispering in reverse. But Chloe stood her ground. The witch lunged, and Chloe shoved the mirror into her face. The creature screamed, clawing at her own reflection. Then Chloe stabbed her in the chest with a silver knife soaked in lake water and salt. The witch exploded into a violent burst of black mist and ash. Silence returned. Chloe survived. Barely. She was found wandering along the highway the next morning, wet, barefoot, and covered in scratches. When the police searched the cabin, all they found were claw marks, blood, and one final message scratched into the window glass. "She'll be back next summer." To this day, Crystal Pines is beautiful, but no one dares laugh after dark, because beauty can hide horror, and the witch, even in death, still whispers under the surface of the lake. Willow Lake was a hidden gem tucked deep in the Oregon mountains. Still waters, colorful wildflowers, and a sky full of stars. It was the perfect retreat from the noise of city life. No traffic, no phones, just peace. Haley, Madison, Zoe, and Claire, 4 lifelong best friends, rented a lakefront cabin for a girls-only getaway. The cabin was rustic but cozy, wrapped in ivy and backed by whispering pines. It had a private dock, a stone fireplace, and a view that looked like it came straight from a painting. None of them knew that a witch was buried beneath that lake, a creature cursed by the townspeople over a century ago, a woman who died screaming for justice. Her name was Seraphine Blackwood, and her soul never left the lake. The first night was filled with laughter, wine, and marshmallows by the fire. But something changed after midnight. The wind picked up without warning. The lake turned black and still. At exactly 2:47 a.m., Haley stepped outside to call her boyfriend, then vanished. Her scream was heard by no one. The next morning, all they found was her torn phone case and bloodied fingernails on the wooden railing of the dock, drag marks, deep and violent, leading into the woods. The sheriff blamed a wild animal, but Madison swore she heard whispering near her window all night. The second night, dread settled over the cabin like fog. The air was too quiet. At 2:47 a.m., the generator failed, the lights died, and something crawled onto the roof. Madison screamed as the ceiling caved in and a long pale arm yanked her upward. Claire and Zoe could only watch, frozen, as she vanished into the night. They heard bones snapping and her voice begging for mercy until it was drowned out by gurgling, inhuman laughter. Only two were left. Zoe wanted to run. Claire refused. She said the only way out was through it. The third night, Zoe barricaded herself in the bathroom. She didn't make it to dawn. The mirrors shattered on their own. The door bent inward like it was made of rubber. She was dragged out by her hair, screaming, bleeding, kicking, and then it all went silent. Claire now stood alone. But she had studied the witch's curse. She found Seraphine's name in the town's old archives, burned into a ledger titled Women of Evil. She learned that Seraphine had been falsely accused and drowned in Willow Lake by men of the village. Now her spirit hunted women, especially happy ones. Claire prepared the cabin like a battleground. Salt lines, iron nails, a dagger dipped in lake water mixed with lavender and grave dust. She painted protective runes around every door. She didn't run. She waited. And Seraphine came out of the lake, like a shadow made flesh. Her face was rotting, her eyes hollow, her mouth filled with leeches and black sludge. She moved with jerks like a broken puppet. Her fingers were long and splintered like bones sharpened into knives. Claire didn't flinch. When the witch lunged, Claire stabbed her right in the chest with the ritual dagger. The witch screamed, a sound that shook the trees. Her body ignited with blue fire and mist. The wind howled. The candles exploded. Seraphine's scream split the sky and echoed off the water for miles. And then it was over. The witch collapsed into ash, her scream echoing as it faded into nothing. Claire was found in the woods the next morning, numb, silent, and clutching the blood-stained dagger. The cabin was half burned. No one ever found the other girls. Claire never spoke again. But every summer at Willow Lake, on the 3 nights leading up to August 13th, the anniversary of Seraphine's death, locals still hear footsteps on the dock, whispers, screams, and the dragging of bodies through the dirt. The lake is beautiful, but it remembers, and it never forgives. Raven Hill was famous for its postcard perfect views, rolling green hills, a glassy blue lake, and wildflowers that danced with every breeze. It was the kind of place people came to heal. Peaceful, isolated, pure. 4 best friends, Samantha, Riley, Kate, and Morgan, booked a luxury cabin perched at the edge of the lake for a weekend escape from the chaos of their college lives. They packed wine, books, and swimsuits, planning long nights of laughter and peace under the stars. They had no idea they were stepping into a place drenched in blood, a place haunted by something so ancient and cruel. It didn't even remember being human. Local folklore whispered about the hollow-eyed witch, a woman who had once lived alone in the hills and was brutally killed by villagers after being accused of stealing children. They tore her eyes out and left her to die by the lake, where she vowed to return and take everything they loved. Now, every few years, girls disappeared from Raven Hill, but no one talked about it, not out loud. The first night was perfect. Laughter filled the cabin, candles flickered warmly, and the lake shimmered under the moonlight. But at exactly 2:47 a.m., the wind died. The fire went out, and Samantha was dragged screaming from her bed. Her body was found twisted like a broken doll under the porch, her face bruised, her jaw shattered, eyes missing. No footprints, no blood trail, just her and silence. The sheriff came, blamed it on a bear. The girls didn't believe it. The second night, Riley didn't sleep. She sat with a kitchen knife in her lap, eyes on the door. But it didn't help. When the clock hit 2:47, the windows fogged from inside. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. Then came the thuds from the roof. She screamed for help, but the witch dropped down like a spider, grabbed her by the hair, and slammed her against the wall again and again until blood ran like paint down the cabin walls. Her final scream never left her throat. Only 2 girls left. Now, Kate and Morgan tried to escape, but the tires of their Jeep melted. The phone stopped working. Even the compass spun in circles. The witch was trapping them, and enjoying it. Night 3. Kate bolted into the forest. Morgan never saw her again. In the morning, they found her clothes in the lake, folded neatly. Her fingernails were found stuck in the bark of a tree, as if she had tried to dig her way up from the earth itself. Only Morgan remained. But Morgan had figured it out. She read the symbols scratched under the floorboards. She dug up a rotting wooden box near the dock. Inside was a bone, a blackened ring, and a locket with a photo of the hollow-eyed witch when she was still human. Her name was Eliza Rowan. The town had erased her history, but her rage survived. Morgan created a trap. She placed the locket in the center of the room, surrounded it with salt, covered the mirrors, and waited. At exactly 2:47 a.m., the witch came. Her eyes were hollow sockets that oozed black smoke. Her hair moved like it was underwater. Her hands dragged across the walls, tearing into the wood like it was paper. Her voice was a low gurgle, Morgan's name, whispered over and over. But this time, the victim didn't run. Morgan lured her into the trap and lit the cabin on fire. She shouted Eliza's name, forced her to look at the locket, and in that moment, the witch screamed like her 1,000 grieving mothers. The fire consumed her. Her skin cracked and peeled. She collapsed into ash, still screaming, still reaching. The fire department found Morgan alive outside, covered in soot. Her eyes swollen from smoke, but she was alive. She never spoke again. But before she was taken to the hospital, she said one sentence. She just wanted someone to remember her name. Raven Hill was closed to the public after that, but hikers still report strange sounds at night. Dragging footsteps, laughter from nowhere, and sometimes, the sound of a girl begging to be let go. The lake is still beautiful. The air still smells like pine. But never forget, the witch is gone. Her name is remembered, but the curse is not broken.